Hello everybody, this is Michael Jake with Local Mentor. Got another training video today on real estate investing, how to handle counteroffers. I had one comment on the video and I thought this would be a pretty cool topic to handle today. So basically going to talk about negotiation strategies with different types of sellers when you've made an offer and basically you're getting feedback or you're getting a seller that gives you a counter. So, the first group of sellers I want to talk about are listed properties. Now, when you're dealing with listed properties, and we're going to assume you're not a licensed agent and you're kind of working through either your realtor or at bare minimum the listing agent realtor, meaning the realtor who has listed the property for sale for the seller. The first thing I want to look at is, who is the seller? Is it just, Joe Schmo, the seller, somebody that owns a property and has it listed? Usually, frankly, you're not going to buy a lot of MLS listed properties directly from sellers that don't have some type of situation involved. You're not dealing with a lot of homeowners who are living in the house. Usually, if it is just a person who owns a property, it's a tired rental, it's an estate property, there's some other issue there. It's usually not a homeowner who's living in the house and there's a distressed situation there. In a lot of cases that might be a short sale, something like that, but we're not really talking that. We're kind of dealing with I guess an unemotional seller, somebody who's not living in the property. If it is, the last one I purchased who was just seller owned, again, it was a rental property prior to them moving. After they moved out, they rented it out. It was not treated well and it was in a distressed condition. It had also been, fallen out of contract a few times. So at that point, I was dealing with a listing agent who had listed the property. I met that listing agent at the property, and I basically made a verbal offer right there on the spot. Now, this property had been on the market many, many days. We're talking well over 200 days on the market. It had fallen out of contract a few times, and at this point in time, I knew there wasn't another offer on the table. So in that case, I did get a counter kind of immediately from the agent, and he said, would you do this? And I said, really, based on looking at the house, no, I can't. This is my highest and best offer. And that's terminology that we often use. If you're dealing with REOs, you're going to see that a lot, highest and best. And in that case, I got it for the price that I wanted. Now, dealing with REOs, and that stands for real estate owned. It's kind of lingo for what we refer to as bank-owned foreclosures. After a house has been foreclosed on from whoever owned it prior, now the bank takes ownership of it, and they are reselling the property to get it off their books. And that is what we refer to as an REO. REOs are typically listed. Here's your layers of distillation on an REO. There's the listing agent, then there's an asset manager, and then there's a bank behind that. So when you're dealing with REOs, typically you've got properties that come on the market right now. If they are priced right, there's going to be usually a feeding frenzy. There's going to be a lot of people that are looking for new listings that are priced right, and you're going to have a lot of competition on those. So typically, I don't try to, let me see if I can get a little better deal. Let me see if I can negotiate. I just go in highest and best offer right off the bat. I don't want to have to let my emotions take effect later when, and this is going to happen, the listing agent is going to contact everyone who wrote an offer or all the realtors that wrote an offer for their clients and say, we've got a multiple offer situation, and do you want to, change your offer, or we're looking for your highest and best offer? In this case, again, with a new listing, when I know I'm going to have this competition, I said, I'm staying put. I've already given you my highest and best offer. Okay, same scenario. Let's take an aged REO property. I have one right now. typical scenario, for whatever reason, they fall out of contract a few times. It gets a certain amount of time on the market, and typically the longer they're on the market, the more motivation there is on the asset manager to get rid of this property. The more pressure on the asset manager, the more pressure on the listing agent. So over time, a good deal strategy is get to know these REO listing agents, and they may not want to deal with you initially, but keep in communication. Let them know you're a real buyer and you're really looking and you can really close, whether it's you or whether you're wholesaling a property. But ultimately, keep in communications. Those relationships will pay off very handsomely over time. With the age listing, again, I'm assuming this thing's been out there for a while. There's not a feeding frenzy, and I'm giving my offer kind of in a vacuum, meaning there's no other competition on my offer. So now, if here's the example, and basically the property was listed. I was pretty severely under the listing price. Like, this was listed at $199,000, and this is probably a bigger spread than what you're going to see on a lot of deals, but this is just one that I'm doing right now. It's listed at $199,000. My offer was $155,000. They countered at $183,000, something like that. They countered some dates on the contract, and basically, again, I'm making this offer in a vacuum, no other competition. I simply countered them with my same offer, and I said, yeah, your dates are fine. I don't care about any of that stuff, but I'm not changing my price. And ultimately, we ended up getting that deal. So I got a little bit better spread than what I would had I been basically offering with competition. So again, little different treatment when it's an aged listing. I'm going to try to pad a little bit of negotiation room in there if I need to. If there's a price drop, now price drops are another search that's very easy for a realtor to find. And if it's easy for a realtor to find, it's easy for other rehabbers or buyers to find as well. So I treat price drops similar to new listings, and I kind of go in with my highest and best. So again, refer to, go in, give it your highest and best that you can still profit from, and leave it at there. Don't be emotional about it. Don't go back and say, oh, I really want this. You need to treat this like a business. Give it your highest and best, and stop right there. So again, listed properties, you want to make offers based on competition or no competition. Now, unlisted properties. When you're dealing with people who may, if you're an active wholesaler, you're not relying exclusively on the MLS. You're doing advertising to generate leads. Those leads are often unlisted properties, or people that have a problem. There isn't a for sale sign in the yard. And usually I walk through what I call my standard formula. And I kind of walk through, here's what your normal selling costs are. Here's what you might pay to have the property fixed up. And here's what your net offer would be. Now, usually showing them commissions, closing costs, concessions, time on the market, and ultimately what I would call a retail fix-up. Usually my offer, which allows us, who can get things done at a more effective pricing, through contractors and things like that, we're getting fix-up done at wholesale level, not retail level. So we can give them a fair offer, we can close quickly, and I basically, leave it like this is the formula. That's kind of my rules. And as I explain things, if I buy things right, I have all the money in the world. If I buy it for $1 more, you might as well consider me broke. So I try to use that as a way to, more or less have a take it or leave it. Now, if I can tell based on my formula that we're close, I want to find out how we're close, what's going to keep us apart. I want to get them talking. I want them to counter my offer and give me, why it won't work, and see if there's a way we can make it work. And here's a scenario. Let's just say I'm offering $100,000 for the property, and they say, look, I really have to get $105,000 for this property. That's, after I pay off the mortgage, that's what I need to get this property, to get this chunk of cash to do whatever I need to do with. So you say, okay, so if I can't give you 105, you're saying we can't do business. I mean, ultimately, I want to make sure that is a definite. And they can say, yes, absolutely. If I can't get this bit of money, this won't solve my problem. And if I can't solve my problem, then I'll have to let the house go to foreclosure or something, whatever the deal is. So now I'm going to look, how can I make this property worth more? And ultimately, if the seller can build financing into the deal, if there's an existing loan, that might be cheaper than hard money. If they own it free and clear, we can build, okay, great, I'll pay you 105, but I'm going to pay you a balloon lump of 105 in 4 to 6 months when I get the property fixed up and resold. Now, if you're a wholesaler, that might be when your buyer gets it fixed up and resold. But ultimately, that adds value. If you can save your buyer the cost of hard money points and high interest rate, then ultimately you should be able to get a higher price for it. For yourself, unless you're a cash buyer and you're not using any leverage at all, you may or may not decide you want to pay them more for it. You may decide, okay, I can live with $5,000 more because that's what's going to meet the seller's needs. But usually if someone is using hard money or some type of commercial source, 5% cost of funds is probably less than what it would be if you're paying hard money on the deal. So not a bad way to go. You both get a little, you get a better deal, seller gets a better deal, everybody wins. So again, use the standard formula. If that doesn't work, get them to counter. And, I always find out if there is an objection. I say, so if I did that, let's say, my offer included, and sometimes they may pad my offer with some of the stuff left at the property just to have some leftover negotiating room. Say, I'll buy the property for $100,000 if you leave a lawnmower and, the car on blocks out there. Now, you may have absolutely no need for the car on blocks, but if you get it, great. You can have somebody, scrap it and make a couple of bucks, or you can sell the lawnmower on Craigslist or something like that. But ultimately, that's just stuff left for negotiation. If they say, well, I can't leave the car there, that belongs to Uncle Fred and he needs to get his car. I say, well, okay, if I bought the property, if I still gave you $100,000 and it doesn't include the car, would you be willing to do business? I'm trying to remove that objection and get them to commit to a deal before I'm actually officially making that offer, if that makes sense. Depending on my objections, I'm also going to more or less want to identify any objections that are holding us from moving forward, and basically just asking the question: is that the only thing that's holding us back at this point? Is price? Is the time frame? What are those objections? And objections are good. If you're new, you might be scared. You might be wondering, well, rarely does a deal happen where you excuse me, you cleverly craft your done, purchase offer and present it to them and say, here it is. I mean, it just doesn't happen like that. You have a conversation. You basically get, this is how I do it. And that's basically all I can tell you is what works for me. And you have a conversation with these people, and it's part of a sales process. And ultimately, when I present my offer, that's the start of the negotiation point. And that offer, it might be a letter of intent. It may be verbal. Sometimes I'm doing it in person. Sometimes I'm doing it via email. Usually it all starts with a conversation. And if we're in the ballpark, sometimes they'll say, I'd like to see that in writing. And then I'm going to email it if they're out of the area. I'm going to mail it if I have to, whatever. I'm going to get it in front of them, and then I'm going to schedule a time to talk. And then I'm going to basically open up the negotiation and say, if I'm giving them multiple offers, I start with which one's going to work best for you. That's going to help me identify maybe different deadlines, different objections. I'm going to get them talking. So that is really the goal there. And also, multiple offer strategy is basically used to convert their response from a yes no to a which one. It doesn't matter which one they pick. If they pick one of your offers, that's going to work for you. So my offer process may vary if I do know there's competition. Sometimes people, nowadays they're using the internet. They may find me. They may find other investors in the area. And if I know there's competition, one thing I like to do is I want to know where I am in the time frame. Am I the first person? Am I the last person? Am I in the middle? If I'm the last person, I'm going to ask, am I in the running? I'm just joking. You want to keep an open conversation. You want to have open rapport with folks and say, am I in the ballpark, or is somebody beating me here? I try to take the I'm the guy approach. I am the guy in the area, and I said, look, a lot of people are going to try to wholesale this deal to me because I'm the guy. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I want them to know that I'm a real deal. If other people are trying to wholesale it and they're new, no offense, I'm going to bully my way in there, and I'm going to say, look, somebody might make you this offer and it may sound great and they may have a 30-day out closing date. I said, likely that's probably not a real investor. They're probably going to scramble for 30 days trying to find somebody else to sell it to. They're probably going to call me, and when I tell them, oh, I've already looked at that and here's what I really need to pay for it, they're going to probably back out, or you may not even hear from them again, and they've just wasted 30 days of your time. I'm going to say, I'm the real deal. Even if I intend to wholesale this thing, I know what my buyers are willing to pay, and I'm going to get this thing done in 7 to 10 days tops. So knowing that, I can say, look, I can get this thing closed in 7 business days. I said, if your other person can't do that, they're probably not a real investor. They're probably trying to shop it to somebody else like me. And that just builds credibility for me and maybe knocks down the credibility of other people, whether they are credible or not. But invariably, I want to know that I get a shot last after that. And I said, I would open it and say, would you do me a favor? Once you get all your offers, would you at least let me know, or at least give me a shot? If I'm not the best, give me a shot to maybe do better. And I just let them say yes. If they say yes, then I got them. And then at least I know their best deal. And then I can say, well, I could do that if, maybe we add financing, maybe we do something else to justify our higher price. So anyway, I hope that helps you dealing with counteroffers. I know that's kind of this quick skinny. I don't want to drag this out too long, but if you have specific situations, if you got questions, comments, a certain situation you need some help with, by all means, put it in the comments below. I will reply. I do travel a lot. I do take some time off, but I will answer your question if it's a legitimate question and you're not trying to spam my video. Okay, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. All right. So again, this is Michael Jake with Local Mentor. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want lots of more good, high quality, free training stuff, check out localmentor.com. If you like the free stuff, you should see what we charge for. All right. Again, questions, comments, dump them below. And until the next video, we'll see you then.